Natalie, hi.
Hi, Sue.
So what's your reaction to these rising prices?
Well, I guess it's not surprising, given the SAQ has been increasing prices every year, as they say, to keep up with inflation. But I think, it's not necessarily good news for consumers because, this is a significant price increase as compared to previous years. And it really impacts those who do shop in the bargain category of wines, say, under $15, and in particular, those under $10.
Are there even wines under 10 anymore?
Apparently, there are still 26.
Okay.
So go get them while you can.
Yes.
That's not a very good selection at all. I mean, that's just dismal. Now, if you move up to the under 15, you've got apparently now 590 wines after the price increase. But even so, I mean, in the world of wine, diversity is king. And that really isn't a lot to choose from, even at that.
No, although the SAQ has been very quiet today, but we did manage to get a hold of them. And our researcher spoke to their spokesperson who says, look, we are working with our suppliers. We're aware of the problem. We are going to try to get some less expensive products on the shelves. But for the moment, for sure, the selection is limited. I'm just curious, because you mentioned inflation, so that would make me think that prices are going up across the country. What is your knowledge of that?
Well, I'm based in Ottawa, so I shop at both the SAQ and LCBO. So it's a tale of two wine cities here, and I also review wines on my own site from both liquor boards. And I do see prices generally tend to be higher in the SAQ than the LCBO, particularly for New World wines. So that means, California, South Africa, Australia, and so on. Now, I think what the SAQ has a strength in is the depth of selection in French and Italian wines, and that, of course, is the French wine culture driving that. But, I do see quite a difference, when I'm shopping in both liquor stores.
Mm-hmm. And do you have an opinion about shopping habits? I mean, the impression that we've been getting in the past is that Quebecers are willing to spend a bit more on wine than people elsewhere.
Yes. Again, that's a strong wine culture and heritage, and what you value, what you grew up with is something usually you'll pay a bit more for. Across the country, the average price of a bottle of wine is $10. It is slightly more in Quebec, but the price sensitivity is still there. And I think your question about are prices rising across the board? No, they're not, and they're certainly not rising in all provinces. A lot of wine prices are affected by currency exchange, so right now I've noticed a softening in California wines certainly in Ontario, but other provinces as well. But, so there's many factors in there, and I don't think that we're seeing those kinds of, or the degree of price increases that we've been seeing at the SAQ across the country.
So does that mean you're skeptical of that reason, that it's because of inflation?
Well, I think it can be a variety of factors. Certainly, sure, inflation's part of it, but I would say there's, a broader strategy with the liquor board in terms of, whatever the mandate they have for profitability and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that has been written is that they profit more on expensive wines, is that their markup is higher.
Absolutely.
And so they're moving in that direction.
Yes. So if we look at the price increase, I said it's much more than it has been in the past, but it's an average of 70 cents a bottle. On a $10 bottle, that's significant. It's almost 10%. But on a $50 bottle, that's a rounding error. That's a bottle, what you return the bottle for on deposit. So certainly at the higher end, 50 and above, there's not that price sensitivity, and this increase won't make a big difference to those consumers. But those consumers are 5% or less of the population.
So given that, then, what do you expect to happen with these price increases?
I think there will be a further softening of sales under $15. We've seen it in the past in response to these price increases because it is a big percentage of the price of the bottle of wine. Premium wines, I think, will remain unaffected. The trend overall across the country, but as well in Quebec, is that people are drinking better wines, paying more for them. Wine consumption on the whole is on the rise. But I think we're going to see more softening in the under $10, under $15 wine bottle range.
So I'm not sure what you mean by more softening. Does that mean people will stop buying wine and go to other things?
They'll stop buying wine as frequently. I don't think they'll give it up altogether, but, if you always have your favorite bottle of whatever, a Cabernet that had been $12 and now has jumped, or $10, especially if it's jumping a price category, I think you may think twice about buying it every week, or maybe it becomes more of a special treat. You buy wine less often, and you could look at other types of alcoholic beverages that aren't as expensive.
I was interested when you said diversity is king, because I guess from your perspective it is. I have to confess, I think I buy the same, like 20 bottles over and over.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Most
not
people
even.
do.
Maybe like 10. So I wonder if most people, you say most people do that?
They do, because wine is a buying category unlike any other. I mean, you can try on a dress, you can take a test drive in a car, but you can't really taste a wine before you buy it, at least not legally. So what most people do is tend to buy their favorites over and over and over again, which, is fine if that makes you happy, but as I did say, diversity is the beauty of wine, all the different regions and tastes and food pairings and so on. I think, if anything, perhaps this will prompt people to look at other brands or other wines, less expensive perhaps than their current favorite, and that could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any recommendations of good? I won't test you for the under 10, but maybe under 15?
Sure. I mean, I'm always, I grew up with a nose for a bargain, shopping at consignment stores and so on. So I love to find wines that taste twice as expensive as they cost. And if you look at regions that tend to offer that value, there are still good value-priced wines to be had in the SAQ. If you look at regions like Argentina or Chile, brands like Errázuriz from Chile come to mind, or even southern Italy. Don't forget Tuscany and Piedmont. They're very overpriced. But if you go south to Sicily or Puglia, you'll find brands like Cusimano, big, robust red wine. If you like Cabernet, you'll love Nero d'Avola. You just have to get familiar with some of these undervalued regions. The grapes you may not be familiar with. It's not like Cabernet or whatever. But you can find great wine still at reasonable prices.
I'm writing them all down. I'm going to expand my repertoire, Natalie.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to also post those on your site so that folks can find them this weekend, because I do have a lot of heart for people who still want to drink good wine but just don't want to pay, empty their wallets when they do so.
Natalie, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sue.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.